Ohtani said yesterday, met with the media, read, which again, from a foreign country, needs an interpreter. I'm not bothered by Ohtani reading what he wanted to say for about 12 minutes. I know cynicism gets retweeted in America today, and naivete gets mocked. I'll be a little naive. He said he never gambled on sports ever, and he was ripped off and lied to by his interpreter. So I just want to throw this out there. A great athlete who's got a complicated game. He hits and he pitches, making the most money ever by an American pro athlete. That's the contract he signed. In those peak years as a young athlete, you are focused on your sports, your endorsements, your training, your performance. You have to trust your body to people, your money to people, your career to people. Even paying taxes for a pro athlete. Every state taxes you differently. And when you make Ohtani money, when you make celebrity money, these aren't accountants. These aren't business people. And most of the time, they're 23 years old. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, an academic, ripped off. John Elway went to Stanford, lost $15 million in a Ponzi scheme. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, lost tens of millions. Robert De Niro lost $88 million. Billy Joel lost $90 million. They're artists. They're celebrities. They're focused on their gifts. And they're often young and rich and distracted. And there's those peak years for an actor, a celebrity. Again, these people, they're the opposite of accountants. It's all personality. It's all art. It's not about numbers. Most people are turned off by that stuff who are artists and athletes. They don't care about that. They weren't raised around people that were, buying hedge funds and mutual funds. They don't know. A foreign land, you need an interpreter to speak to the media? Maybe I'm naive. I can see them get ripped off. I've seen school funds get ripped off. I've seen banks get duped, and bankers, and economists, and charities, and companies. So for an international player who needs an interpreter to just speak to the media, when he says, I don't gamble on sports, and I get totally ripped off, maybe I'm naive. I can get it. I mean, how many times a week do you get an email or a scam phone call? I must get 6 phone calls a day. A day. And it says on my phone, potential scam. I get emails constantly. And some, I had my wife have to talk me out of something about a year ago. They said I owed back taxes and I had to send money. I was duped. My wife's like, I would call your accountant. I did. He said it's fake. It's the second person I've seen get this, and it looks incredibly authentic. So like Ohtani, different country. Every state's got different laws and rules on gambling and taxes. He's a celebrity. And how do you rip somebody off? You get proximity to that person, numbers, names. An interpreter is about the closest ally you can have. Ohtani, to me, is a brilliant kid. I saw a lot of people in the media yesterday. Oh, he's just reading his answers. Well, if I was a sportscaster and moved over to Asia, I would read my answers too at a press conference if I was in perceived hot water, right? Like, I think we're trying to be a little sinister or a little, we're all being cynics here. Nobody is buying the reality of young people, young celebrities who in my life have been ripped off, and the scams are getting much more sophisticated. So, I don't know. I'm going to be naive here. I can see a young kid getting ripped off, not really having a clue. But Colin, his initial story was different than this story. I can see him initially trying to help out the interpreter, who it's been reported was his ally, his best friend in the country. Sort of trying to help the guy out and then realizing, oh, this is way worse than I thought. I've really been ripped off. I'm ticked off. The Dodgers had to fire him. Again, I've seen it my whole life. Young, rich celebrities. Billy Joel, Robert De Niro, John Elway, Kareem, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan. I mean, there was an agent years ago that I think was in the NFL that ripped off dozens of athletes. That's why leagues have these rules that you have to qualify to just be an agent, and they're pretty darn strict. It's why there's only a handful of agents in baseball, Scott Boras, football, and the NBA. There's about 6 agents per sport that have all the clients. And part of that is they're trusted by the league. So file me under naive. File me under not going to be a cynical media person. I kind of believe the kid got ripped off. I do. And if I'm wrong, I actually hope he got ripped off. I hope he got ripped off. I hope it goes away. I hope the kid's career doesn't go into the tank. I hope he ends up elevating baseball. I hope he's a star for a great organization. Yeah, I do. I don't like talking about this stuff. I don't root against kids. I'm hoping he got ripped off. That sounds so weird to say. But that would be the best conclusion. He was naive. The interpreter took him for a ride. You know, the good news is he's pushed all his money down the road. So the big chunks of his money don't happen for years, so he'll overcome it. A lot of these athletes and celebrities, it's at the end of their career, past their earning years. So potentially, it's quick, it's ugly, he got robbed, and it's over. That's what I'm hoping for. And today, that's what I believe. We'll see. All right, it happens every few years. And it happens a lot with quarterbacks. Is all of a sudden you watch a college quarterback and you're like, he's a pretty good player. He'll go like late first round, early second round. And all of a sudden he starts flying up the draft board. He doesn't play any games. Maybe he had a good combine. But a combine's in shorts. There's no defense. His pro day, you're throwing to college teammates. That has become JJ McCarthy. According to a story this morning, many believe he'll be the second player picked. Folks, he had 22 touchdown passes in 15 games. Caleb Williams had 93 touchdowns with bad offensive lines the last 2 years at USC. J.J. McCarthy had 22 touchdowns in 15 games with a great O-line, a great run game, a great coach, a great defense. Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels all averaged over 300 yards a game passing. J.J. McCarthy last year did it one time against awful 4-8 Purdue. He averaged under 200 yards throwing. This is starting to feel like Zach Wilson of the Jets, where he has a couple of throws on his pro day. We start going, ooh, his arm. Oh, he moves well. There's a lot of zip. Both he and Zach Wilson are 6'3", and in my opinion, a little spindly. I don't know. J.J. McCarthy's college experience is not the NFL. I said this a month ago. It's very Alabama quarterback. You always have the best coach. You always have a lead. You always have a great O-line. You always have protection. You always have a great run game. If he goes number 2, like the executive says, you go to Washington, that was the 32nd ranked offensive line. You'd go from the best college O-line to the worst NFL line. You'd go from the first or second best college run game at Michigan to the 27th run game. It would be the opposite of your Michigan experience. Caleb Williams actually goes to the Bears. They'll have much better offensive pieces than USC did. It'll be like cruise control. He's thrown to 2-star NFL receivers. He had 1 in 2 years at USC. The Bears appear to have their run game and offensive line right, and 2 capable tight ends, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. To me, the guys that succeed in this league, their college experience mirrors their NFL experience. That's why Ohio State's had so many great college quarterbacks, and C.J. Stroud is the first one we're like, whoa, we got a star here. Because Ohio State has such great players. They're always leading. They're never behind. They get protection. And so when I look at the J.J. McCarthy situation, it's very Tua. You know, it's very Bama quarterback. It's very Mac Jones. I mean, there are things I like about him. But, I mean, second? Drake May's bigger and stronger. Caleb Williams, much more explosive. Better numbers across the board. He hit 300-yard passing game one time. Lance Zierlein, who I bring on this show, dad was an NFL coach. He works at NFL.com. He scouts. He said McCarthy should continue to improve as a passer, but he fails to stand out in many areas that tend to be predictive of top-level success in the NFL. and now we have him going number 2. He was very efficient at Michigan. He was rarely, if ever, dynamic, dominant. He never asked to carry the team. I mean, I said from the very beginning, I didn't really get it, and I never got Zach Wilson. And there are things I like about him. It's awesome to have Jim Harbaugh as a college coach because he coaches like an NFL coach. He brings that NFL intensity. And so I like that. But the last 3 years, Michigan's been beating Ohio State, and the reason they've been beating him, the run game and the defense. The Michigan defense better than Ohio State's, and the Michigan physicality and run game better than Ohio State's. So I'm not anti JJ McCarthy, but it always cracks me up. I mean, you have NFL coaches now not even going to the combine. You have GMs rolling their eyes at the combine. The Rams don't send anybody. They have a pretty good franchise. They don't send anybody. And we're falling in love with combines and pro days. Watch out. If you go look at the history of the NFL quarterbacks, isn't it remarkable how many of them did not go to power schools? Big Ben went to Miami of Ohio. For a while, the Cal Bears had 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, and so did NC State. Why? Because the college experience for Aaron Rodgers not playing with 5-star guys, or Matt Ryan at Boston College, or Russell Wilson at NC State, or Dak at Mississippi State, or Kirk Cousins at Michigan State, they have to carry the team. They don't get great protection. They don't play with leads. They don't always have a great run game. They have to play from behind. That's very similar to the NFL. I mean, you would think the NFL would be a bunch of USC and Oklahoma and Ohio State and Notre Dame quarterbacks and Alabama. It's not. Patrick Mahomes goes to Texas Tech. Josh Allen goes to Wyoming. Why? Because they lived a real NFL experience, playing from behind, playing with less talent, with a second-best coach. I mean, Michigan is like Alabama. Best coach, best O-line, best run game, best field position, best defense. Now he's flying up the board? I'm not saying he's not a franchise quarterback. If he goes to Minnesota, now that works. He can sit for a year. Commanders, he plays day 1. Commanders, he gets a defensive coach, the only in his division. Minnesota, offensive coach. Minnesota's got a better O-line. With Aaron Jones, a better run game. Dominant receivers, top tight end. The Minnesota JJ McCarthy landing spot where he can slowly sit for a year behind Sam Darnold. That could work. Washington, play now. Defensive coach, horrible O-line, no run game. That doesn't sound like it's going to work at all. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.